point I was excited within me, perhaps because we belong to the same generation, when she mentioned some of the things that resonate with me. But many people did not clap, perhaps because, can we call them the old school? Well, definitely not. Everybody here looks so young at heart. And to be here today is because people here are willing to hold the young ones by the hand and lead us and this nation to our promised land. Thank you so much once again, Oriba. Thank you, everyone. God bless you. Please put your hands together for yourselves. Thank you. I mentioned earlier that we'll continue to recognize guests as the program goes on. Before he came in, we already introduced him. I'd like to introduce him again, the former governor of Edo State and former national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Comrade Adams Oshomola. You're most welcome, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Perhaps I should talk to you after this event about your tailor. I like the way you look different every time. Pleased to have you here. You're most welcome once again.
We would also like to recognize the Deputy Chief of Staff to the President, Mr. Ade Ipaya. You're welcome, sir. My apologies.
Mr. Ade Ipaya, you're most welcome once again.
You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you. We have with us His Excellency, former Governor of Kano State, His Excellency Ibrahim Shekarau. You're most welcome, sir.
You're welcome, sir. You're welcome.
Former Governors of Kwara State, His Excellency Ahmed Sani Yarima. You're most welcome, sir. We'll continue with that as the program goes on.
We'd also like to recognize Honorable Shina Pella. You're welcome to our midst. You're welcome to our midst.
Thank you. Representing the chairman, Congo International, we have Professor Armstrong Idachaba representing Dr. Tokoya Agbeyo. Professor Armstrong Idachaba, most welcome. Thank you so much. Well, we'll move on with the program. I will continue to recognize us as we go on. Oh, I see Pastor Iron there. You're most welcome, sir. The new school seems to know what I'm talking about. Right. We'll invite the co-author, Young Akara. I've known him for well over 10 years, and he's been an excellent young man at everything he does. He doesn't want me to do an introduction, but I'll say what I can say before he gets here. Please welcome with me, Alex Adekole James. I don't even know how to categorize him. He's looking like the old school and the new together in one.
Thank you very much. If you must know, it is my lecturer. It was my lecturer when I was in the university. Thank you very much for that honor. I hope we're having fun so far. It's about to get more interesting because we're going to the crux of today's matter. And it is a conversation that we're about to have today. So this panel is slightly different from what we are used to, so permit me to explain it a bit, then I'm going to call up the moderator to take over. So what we are doing today is we're having an interaction between three generations. We're having this dialogue between the old and established politicians as a first category, representing that demography. Then next we're going to have the new and the fresh politicians that are first time in office. And the last category, we're going to have young and aspiring politicians. So instead of the moderator asking them questions, now they are representing their demography to interact with each other towards the end of fixing politics to fix Nigeria. And so I'm welcome with me the moderator, Engineer Mike Oluwagbemi. He's going to take it up from this point. Thank you very much. President Chairman. Okay. We're waiting for him to go. He's coming. Please, can we put our hands together as it comes up?
Thank you very much. Starting the existing protocol, Excellency the Vice President,
Senator Ojudu, distinguished guests. Adebule, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to have this very much necessary discussion around the future of politics and why young people get involved. I would like to invite our panelists this afternoon. First, I'd like to invite the former Senate leader, Senator Victor Ndomaiba. He's, as you all know, please come out of your system. It is fine. Thank you. Thank you very much. As you all know, he has extensive experience leading the 7th Senate and as a former chairman of NDDC. We also have here with us today, and who is going to be part of the panel, His Excellency Governor Adams Oshiomhole, who is also the former chairman of the All Progressive Congress. Please give him a round of applause. It is not easy to serve, so you have to clap for him. Thank you. We also have, we also have here with us a strategist. I think it's important to understand that in politics, those you see sometimes are not the only one that are involved in politics. There are strategic minds often not seen, often not heard, but whose work are very intrinsic to the success of the politician. Here today we have with us Dr. Ibrahim Dauda, who was of the Buhari Support Organization. Please give him a round of applause. Dr. Ibrahim, please. There's a second category of young politicians. These guys are beginning to break the barriers, and we need to also add a perspective to the discussion. Today I have with me a member of the House of Representatives, Mr. Shino Hela. Please give him a round of applause. Was he? All right. A round of applause to him. Also, I have Mr. Akin Alabi, also a member of the House of Representatives. Mr. Akin Alabi. Is he around? Okay. I also have with me Mr. Dayo Israel, who is a board member, has been involved in politics extensively and also have been involved at the parastatal and NDA level in governance. Give him a round of applause. Now, in terms of aspiring politicians, and maybe one or two of them also have already secured some form of engagement, active engagement in governance already, especially the next person I'm about to call, Engineer Hamad Zakari, to the President of Infrastructure. Please give him a round of applause. Usually I think he's probably the most senior, youngest serving person in government today. And also we have Morimi Ojudu. I don't think she needs any introduction. So please give her a round of applause. And for better gender balancing, even beyond, we have Mrs. Sarah Adepoli James. You see, she's already winning. Okay. She's already winning. She's an aspiring politician, madam. Seems that political support is strong. And then to stand in place of Mr. Akin Alabi, we're going to have Mr. Abdurrahman Bafa, who is the SA Political Matters to the President and also in the Office of the Vice President. Please give him a round of applause. Mr. Abdurrahman, please take your seat. All right. He's coming. I think he has quite a bit of distance to cover. All right. Mr. Abdurrahman? Is he out? Okay.
All right. We'll get started. Yeah. I think we have another microphone, just to make it easier. Yes, give our panelists. Thank you very much. We're going to try to make this snacky because we want to get their views, and I hope to make it a little bit more interactive than usual. As you all know, politics is no cakewalk. Okay. Okay. All right. We have, is he just coming? Okay. To replace the panel? Okay. So I think we are told that Mr. Babatunde Irukera is also going to join the panel as well. Where is he? A round of applause for him. Where is he? Mr. Babatunde Irukera. Yes. He's very young, as you can tell. He's in our age group, under 30s. Okay? Yes. He's a known political figure in Kogi State. So now, we are going to start by we all know that politics is not cakewalk. Serving the people, it comes with both ups and downs. And someone who has experienced the ups and the downs, I think the seasoned politicians and strategists to my right, immediate right, will qualify. Simple question, Dr. Dowda, someone who has been engaged in politics from the ground up, and also Governor Shomole and Senator Ndumaiba, why should young people be involved in politics? Is Your Excellency, why should young people, you are giving the floor was considered to you, sir. You rather not go first? Okay, Senator Ndumaiba. Why should young people be involved in politics?
Simply because the future belongs to the young people. They have to secure their future.
All right. Do you have an additional?
Well, Your Excellency, the Vice President I have to confess that I came here just to enjoy myself, to listen to those who have the answers. And I came in also that I'm not locked out. Only to be told, I believe by this man, he kidnapped me here and said, I have to feel, I have to participate as a discussant because somebody was absent. I'm a union man, it's not fair. I'm not put on notice now to make me to speak first, make it even worse. But let me ask the question, I think that sometimes as a nation, we seem to have some kind of short memory. For me, the issue in Nigeria is not about age. What defines the character of government is the character of those in government. If you are young and you are a robber, and you cheated your way to getting admission to university, and you pay for package share for your lecturers to get your marks, and you even rig your way to student union government, and you are now elected as whatever, legislative or executive, does the fact of being youthful makes a difference? The background that I'm coming from would rather emphasize the values that people represent. There are right-wing young people and there are progressive young people. There are young people who are far to the right, who believe that society should be organized and everybody to himself, God for all of us. There are also young people who believe that it is not right for the destiny of a nation to be left strictly in the hands of market forces, because the social purpose of government does not coincide with the profit motive of private enterprise. These are the kind of values that for me I want debating. If I am young and I do not believe in certain core values, the fact of being youthful for me is nothing. But let me make this substantive point. Nigeria has substantially been governed by young people. How old was General Gowon when he became the head of state and commander-in-chief of Nigeria? Number two, in 1999, of the 36 state governors, majority of them were under 50, under 40, or very early 40s. And I was wanted to join a group we called under 50. And somehow, I don't want to look for trouble, but that is why I don't talk these days. Because truth in Nigeria can be extremely adverse and it can lead to retrenchment. Governors that my very dear friend, big brother, President Olusegun Obasanjo called Owambe governors, who took taxpayers' money, flew to London to go and celebrate a birthday of a young governor. This is 1999. This is not 1960. Sorry, 1999, not 1960, not 1970. These were young people. I think it is very dangerous for us to reduce governance and issues in government to the question of what is your age, even the question of what is your gender. I read a literature when I was much younger. I was in the UK as a student, and these statisticians were able to document convincingly that when Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister of Great Britain, women's share of national income dropped compared to when her predecessor, men, were occupying the same office. Which will say that even when we're talking about gender, the issue is what values drives a woman, not the part of the skirt or blouse that she wears. It's our heart. So I want us to move away from this one drawbacks or when people are young, everything is fine. Today, Vice President, you are here, you chair the National Economic Council, and I was privileged to be chaired by you for some time before. Did you really find any correlation between the values, the ideas, the performance, the competencies of people who occupy executive positions, and in your own cases, for those who occupy legislative positions? Do you find some correlation between the views they parrot, the positions they take, their idea of society? Was it any correlation between their age and those views and those ideas? I haven't found any. Find elderly people who are caring, who believe that Nigeria can do better and they have idea of how it can be managed. I also have young people who think that, life is a superhighway, what we used to call J5 buses. So, moderation, excuse me, I don't want to be misunderstood. The young people have a right to participate and to be active in every stage of life. I mean, those who run and the great inventor in American society, the Facebook people, the Twitters and so on, they are young people. So it's about what do we do differently in government to reorientate our people to recognize the world is not ideologically governance is not value free. Government is value-driven. Who gets what? It's a conscious decision.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So thank you
Thank
for
you. Thank you, sir.
working with the management.
No, you could just imagine if I gave you notice. Dr. Dalba, briefly add, there's been a very incisive discussion in age and politics. Give us your bits of mind. Why should young people be involved in politics? Why?
Thank you. Your Excellency, the Vice President, Your Excellencies, I would add to what His Excellency said, just finished discussing. The transition between the old generation and the new generation in politics, it's supposed to be a bridge building and mentorship process. But His Excellency mentioned key pertinent points which the youth have to answer. Because if you are in a relay race, it takes a team of 4 people. If the first person who takes the baton takes it to a particular length of 100 meters, he hands it over to another person. If that person is not, will refuse to train as much as the first person who kicks off the race, there is no way he will hand over the baton to the second person on time. What I mean by that is, values, he mentioned, is what makes leadership. Principle is built with integrity. Integrity is built with set of values, of do's and don'ts, which is the will of an individual to decide to do the right thing over the wrong thing, not because anybody is looking or watching over that. The older generation have over time acquired certain level of experience. Of course, as argued by His Excellency, age is not a monopoly of performance. Younger people, older people, all make mistakes. But the 2 things remain constant. The younger generation have to come into politics. It's not a question of why. It's a question of transition. Because the older generation will definitely reach an age limit where even if they want to go on, they are impeded by unnatural processes that will retire them. So it's a natural process that has to happen. But the question is, do the younger generation, or have the younger generation over time acquired the basic set of principles and character that is pertinent in managing leadership? That is the will to do the right over wrong. And have they been able to subject themselves to the mentorship of the older generation of patience to walk through the roads? No one is in a
up to 30, but I remember that when I grew up, when I was very young, way younger, the names I was hearing then, in fact, the names I was reading in my history class, I'm still interacting with them today. And that's not bad, even in the case of mentorship. Yeah. However, when it seems like they don't like they just want to mentor you, but they really want to remain there. What happens in that instance? That's number one. Then number two, another question I would like to ask would be, I agree that the younger generation should really take a lot of lessons from the older generation. It's a knowledge bridging gap because they have done it before. They've achieved something before. No other profession in the world do you do things alone without mentorship. Business, relationship, marriage, every other thing. So politics is no different. I'm of that school of thought. But the values that he proposed that we should learn from the older generation, can these values actually be learned? With the situation of things in this country, can we say that we are learning integrity, leadership from this same set of people? That's my feedback from what has been said. Thank you very much.
I think, all protocols observed. My comments would center around 4 quick things. I think the first thing is, if you think about in '99, there were actually, I believe, 5 governors under the age of 40 when they came in, including Yerima Mbokura, His Excellency Ahmed Sani, and even the governor of my state, Shamil Turaki, who actually, I'm 37 now, he was 36 when he came in. So I think we've done it before. Now the question becomes, what has put us in today's position that we actually feel as if age and not competence should determine whether you lead or not? I think it should always be competence. Look, there are very foolish 37-year-olds, and there are very intelligent, youthful thinking 65-year-olds. It's not about the age discussion. We should center it on competence. But I think there has been a bit of a mental oppression of narrative that allows you to call everybody below 50 a youth. And once we've accepted that narrative, we're in trouble. Imagine if it was the birth of the old days, a 40-year-old who we're calling a youth would have a 20-year-old son who we're calling a youth. The gap between, generational gap between a 50-year-old, a 40-year-old, a 30-year-old, the 40-year-olds don't understand what the 20-year-olds are doing. So to group me in the same bucket as them, as I all you, it's mental oppression, and that narrative is what is allowing us to have this discussion today. Is competent. Focus on that. Nigeria has had young leaders before. We can do it again, but we need to drop this mental oppression of this narrative of everybody below 50 is young. I think what we do need from the process is it has to be transparent to allow people to come in. It has to allow for engagement and a fair chance, so that those who do the work and are competent can get elected and come in. Once the process is not rigged, then it's okay. Let us come and show what we do. But I think ultimately one thing we have to consider is the concept of universal suffrage. Every vote should count, man, woman, anybody of voting age, is completely null and void if we don't have turnout. And if we don't have engagement and inclusiveness. So the concept we need to think about, drop the mental oppression, below 50 is not young, let's focus on competence, but let our leaders make the process fair. So a competent 25-year-old can be in office, and a competent 65-year-old can stay in office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Maureen, please.
Okay, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So for me, I've been in the activism sector. So I'm trying to be, I'm always the vibrant, highly. And having delved into politics has been a different scenario for me. I've learned to be calm as an individual. And one thing I must acknowledge is the role of older politicians. And I really must acknowledge the grooming they've given me so far. It's been impactful. I personally feel attacked by my father's remarks earlier, because I remember clearly during the NSAS saga when I was just talking and I was like, I don't know. But then again, I remember the day, I think October 22nd, if I'm not mistaken, I sat back in my room and I said, Maureen, what can you do differently? How can you
Quite a bit on social media, youth engagement, you run up to the to office. What made a difference to you? Was it being young, being engaged with the young? I mean, from an engagement point of view, you're a professional engager. That's what you do for a living before you enter politics. And did it matter to you that you had mentors in politics, or it did not? I mean, I want you to take it from the perspective of someone who has practically experienced, at least for the last few years now, the transition from being an outsider to becoming an insider.
Your Excellency, able and competent. Your Excellencies, permit me to stand on existing protocol. I would first of all start from what I believe politics should be. I believe a lot of people don't get involved in politics today because they believe politics is dirty. I believe politics originated from God Almighty, because if politics did not originate from God Almighty, there will not be heaven and there will not be hellfire. And coming to the people that should be participating in politics. Every generation on the surface of this earth has a first obligation. The first obligation of every generation, whether it's in politics, whether it's in government or anything, is to be a bridge of hope for the coming generation. And as And the participation is simple. In Nigeria of today, we do not practice independent candidacy. We practice party politics. So which must make it an obligation for everybody to practice party politics. So that candidate that you are waiting for with your PVC at the general election must fail through from the party level. And as I said, the first obligation of every generation is to be a bridge of hope for the next generation. If you take me as the youth generation of today, I would say probably the generation before us has failed us, and we cannot afford to pass the pattern of failure to the people coming behind. That is very important. It's an important key. And for this reason, I like what my brother said there when he said there are young people that are competent. There are older people that are competent. There must be synergy between the young and the old. But like I said, politics belongs to God. There is still a part of it that everybody has, which is something that is missing in this country. And it's simple: love and understanding. If you love one another, a Muslim must love a Christian. They say you must be your brother's keeper. You must understand your neighbor. And how a Hausa person must love a Yoruba person. A Yoruba person must love an Igbo. In fact, where Nigeria is today, the most important part that is missing in our politics, that is meant to be the foundation, is peace, which is what everybody should work towards. And because God did not create government, everybody that God created has something in them. I will even advise the people that have not married before, this is the time that you
You could be in 400 level and they say you have the wrong WAEC certificate. You're sent back home, you don't get a degree. So you're not going to school until the government says you're going to school. You're not married until the government says you're married. Honorable Minister, you have to issue a marriage certificate from the marriage registry before a wedding is considered accepted by the law or recognized by the government. You've not given birth until the government says you've given birth. That's why, of course, they give your own children a birth certificate. And guess what? You're not dead until the government says you're dead. And that's why they issue you a death certificate. And if your father dies and you don't have a death certificate, you don't have the power of administration, you cannot access your father's property or wealth or money in the bank. And so when government plays a critical role in our lives from start to unthinkable that for sustainability of government, the next generation of a country does not have a seat at the table. Because help me here, we are seen as good enough to be personal assistant, protocol officers, special assistant, senior special assistant, but when you want to run for office as House of Assembly member, House of Representative member, senator, they say that you're too young to run. I thank Mr. Vice President. I've benefited from him a lot from when I was young, but I don't think that the Vice President would be able to do everything great that is doing today without the likes of Yosola, who is adding value to his team, the likes of Tonali Ali, who is documenting what he's doing, and many other young people in the corridors of power who are supporting their principals. And so many of us are good enough, and that's why I'm very grateful to my governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, because when he came in, he said, I wanted him to serve on the board of SUBE with my chairman is Balawiye King. But 8 of us, and I oversee quality assurance in all the 1,016 public primary schools in Lagos State. I could just have been an SA or a PA, but I can do something too, not to look down on that, but I'm able to do more, directly impacting the life of over 500,000 children in our public primary schools in Lagos State. I think we need to upscale young people's engagement in governance, beyond just being essays and political aides, to be decision makers. And young people, my generation, the reality is nobody's going to give you a seat at the table. So you've got to go to your factory, buy a nail, buy an hammer, make a seat for yourself and bring it to the table. Because we have seen a young generation that have taken over power and have refused to go. We have seen younger, His Excellency, the former governor just talked about the fact that there were young people in government in 1999. A 40-year-old governor in 1999 is probably 61 now. Southwest Nigeria in particular. BP, I know what the Honorable Minister does. One of my friends, Shego Bibusi, is his protege. I know how they invest. But we need to take this in young people. But we need to take this into a larger scale. And I want to wrap up on this. I'm sorry, it might sound like I'm bringing politics here, but we're here to talk about politics. One reason why the former governor of Lagos, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has been undisputable in Lagos State is because of his investment in people. You can fight him, but you cannot fight the structure and the system that he has created. So if you want to build a structure that is bigger than you want to be relevant, that people will turn your home in London to a pilgrimage, you have to invest in the generation coming behind you. Because they're going to be the one to fight for you. So I hope that my submission today is that you've got to create a seat at the table for the emerging generation. And that young people must know that it never comes easy. You've got to roll your sleeves up. There's no sentiment or emotion in politics. You've got to be practical. The game of politics is more than chess. The guys who are at the table, they already know the end from the beginning, and you're being sentimental and you're being emotional. Get practical. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. I think you were definitely mentored by our guy here when he was young, because he talked like a pastor. Yeah, thank you very much. My Ebon, Tunde, from calling yourself a youth, and I know my Oga Engineer Reboshola will still not accept you among the aged as well. So you are caught in the middle. What, as a young, old Nigerian, who will not be accepted by either of the constituencies, how can we bridge the communication gap? How can we create a politics that works for the future of this great nation, Nigeria?
Thank you very much. Good evening. Your Excellency the Vice President, Your Excellencies, Excellency the Honorable Minister, I may stand on the
I don't know your mean.
Excellency, former chairman, said that he was conscripted, he was co-opted. I was conscripted because and like you rightly, you can see there's a very experienced and then the emerging. And I'm just somewhere floating in the middle, neither experience and beyond emergence. So perhaps the first thing is to move a motion to extend that under 50, under 55 for the next 2 years only, just for the next 2 years. But quite seriously, just look at the face of the nation and using, instead of speaking principles, let's talk about our country. What's the face of our country? What are the demographics? And so how do you exclude perhaps the largest, and quite frankly, the most important, and the future from government? You won't succeed. And then if you look at it globally too, what's the face of growth globally? Whether it's advocacy, business, or economy, the young people, the types of businesses they do, their expertise, even in campaigns for climate change and all the other important things like NSAS, has shown and demonstrated that young people have arrived. And so I don't think we should be arguing about whether they have a seat at the table or not. I think the nature and record of everything shows that their seat is at the table. What I'm concerned about, though, is that, like everything that sooner becomes a rhetoric, not too young to run, give young people a chance, can become a rhetoric also. Diversity has always been an asset when it is well managed. So whether it is ethnic diversity,